Hello and welcome to episode 30 of Retro Recall the PS1 Chronicles, a show where we play and rank every PlayStation game ever created. My name is Jimmy, and as always, I'm here with Mike.
Hello. So I was late to this recording because I got home 10 minutes before it's time to start recording. I did a 5K this morning, and I thought, I'll do a 5K, hurry up, get home, and be all set for the recording. And no, I barely made it in time.
You're insane. Are you not just like dying right now? Are you not tired?
I'm a little tired. It's a heat wave right now. I'm a little burnt, I think, a little sweaty, but I'm good to go.
That's wild. It's actually cold here right now. It was hot last week, and now it's like in the 50s and 40s for some reason in the middle of, May.
We're getting that Monday. We'll be getting the colder weather in, which really weird. Side tangent. Apparently last night you could see the Northern Lights outside here. No one told me about this.
It was the same thing here.
I wasn't aware of this. Did you get to see it?
No, it was like in the middle of the night, and I had to work this morning, so I didn't want to stay up. Apparently, you can see them again tonight, so you should check it out.
I am going to force myself to stay awake, and I've always wanted to see this, so I need to stay up to see this tonight.
I'm pretty sure it's like the middle of the night here, so it might not really be that late for you.
Oh, okay. I'll be looking outside all night now to keep watching for it. But what about you? What have you been going on?
Nothing really much. I watched the Twisted Metal show this week.
There's a show for that?
Yeah, it came out like in the summer, I believe.
Did we talk about that already?
I don't think we did. I just watched it this week.
Oh, well, I think maybe you brought it up that there was going to be a show.
Oh, yeah, I think I did. Surprisingly good by the end of it.
Nice.
Now, it's no Fallout. Just saying.
Oh, okay. And you said you watched all that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like we're like in a redemption era for these things, because before, if there's like, we're making an adaptation of this video game, everyone expected it to be terrible because it just was really hard for people to do it. But I feel like now we're getting into the phase where it's becoming like, this might actually be good, and more times than not it actually is.
Yeah, the first episode actually kind of sucks, so I was like, I don't know about this. And I talked to someone at work who watched it, and they're like, you got to get 2 or 3 episodes in and then you'll be hooked. Which was correct.
We had that. We Fallout, you said. We had the Last of Us TV show.
Plus, there's all the like anime coming out too. Like there was the Castlevania anime. There was the Cyberpunk one. I only watched the Cyberpunk one, but apparently the Castlevania one is really good as well.
Nice. There's just so much. I'm loving how there's this redemption now for all of this.
Yeah, when we were kids, every single time there was like anything video game related like that, it was just terrible.
The only thing I could think of, and this might not have aged well with time, was the Mortal Kombat movie.
I've actually never seen it. I saw the newer one, which was good.
What's the newer one?
Came out a couple years ago, just a new Mortal Kombat movie.
Oh, that's with like Scorpion and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to watch that, but I really wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like an amazing movie, like not on the scale of these other things for sure, but it was pretty good.
Okay. That's cool though. I do want to check out this trailer for Twisted Metal, just to see what it's kind of like.
Yeah, it's a little like silly, and as it should be. It's Twisted Metal, but the overall story was really good. Like they gave it some actual heart, and they gave it like a real through line. All the characters are introduced in like smart ways that aren't just like, here's all these wacky people. You know what I mean? Like it was pretty good.
It's not like, hey, I'm Calypso, blah blah blah.
Yeah, but yeah. Before we hop into the episode, so you chose Cool Borders this week.
Yes.
I have a slight history with it. I definitely played some of them as a kid. It was definitely the later ones, which I found out as soon as I started these.
Okay.
But I had a demo for, I'm pretty sure, Cool Borders 3. And I remember playing Cool Borders 2001 a whole bunch.
Oh.
But these first two are actually a different developer from the later ones. So it was kind of a shock when I started playing this, honestly.
And I never played the later ones. I don't think I've ever played 3 or 2001. And originally, we were just going to do Cool Borders 1, and that's what I had on the list. I didn't realize until jumping into this that I confused the games. I thought as a kid I always played Cool Borders 1, but apparently I always played Cool Borders 2, and I didn't realize it. So luckily you said, hey, we should probably do both today, because we would be on a 20-minute episode, and we'd be done.
Yeah. With Tony Hawk, we did too, right?
Yeah.
And we'll get into it more, but this is substantially less content than Tony Hawk. So I think if we just did the first game, we'd be probably looking at our shortest episode ever unless we padded the hell out of it.
But I will say, before we actually get into everything, that the more I played the first one, I do have certain memories about it. So I feel like I did actually play the first one, but the second one overpowered it by so much and I spent more time in the second one that one just took over my brain as being the only Cool Borders game ever.
That checks out, and we'll get into why, I guess, right now. So let's just get into it. Cool Borders was released on January 15th, 1997. It was developed by UE Systems. I forget how you say it. They say it in the thing.
They say WEP.
Okay.
With a W.
Okay. And published by Sony. All of these were published by Sony, which is kind of surprising to me that they haven't brought it back at all.
Yeah. See, and I looked into the UE Systems. They pretty much only made these Cool Border games. They didn't make anything else.
That's crazy because they only made 2 of them.
There's actually more that they actually worked on. And then they had this like one, I think it was a puzzle game they tried once, but it failed. So they just went back to making Cool Borders after that.
So just to start with this first game, this feels like a straight up arcade port or something. Like, I know that it's not, but it just feels like the absolute bare minimum of a video game.
Yeah, it was very shocking whenever I jumped into the menus and there was only 3 levels. It was confusing, and I thought there would be more options to this entire game.
So I guess there's 5 courses total, I believe. Like, you can unlock some of them, but I'm pretty sure that you have to be at the top of like the leaderboard, whatever, for every level to unlock more levels.
Yeah, there's 2 unlockables. I kind of tried to dig into this, and we'll just get into this now. I found a forum post of this year that someone explained how this game works.
Well, the reason for that is because this was released on the PlayStation, the service where they re-release PS1 games now.
Oh.
It was on there.
But it's the only place, like I dug all over the internet and this was the only forum post I could find where it was explained how you can unlock stuff. And another guy did a YouTube video this year, of course, and explaining and showing how you can get all of it. So yeah, you get your first track by getting the fastest time in every track. And then you get the second one by doing the time plus the score, I believe, in every single track.
I figured as much. Yeah, so as I was playing, I actually decided I'm going to do whatever I can to meet the requirements and get as high as I can on the first level. And I tried for a little bit, and then I just gave up.
How many attempts did that take you before you gave up?
I didn't write it down, but it was definitely not that many. And that is because playing this game is not fun.
Yeah, there's bad physics, bad level design, just bad everything from start to end. It's okay. First off, let's talk about the graphics too. The beginning animation
terrible
was laughable at the whole like, here's the cinematic for the game.
My first note, intro video is fucking rough.
And it sets you up for what this game is going to be like when you're playing it.
Yeah, and the voiceover is also bad in this game. Just nonstop talking all the time.
Not just bad, but annoying. Like, dude, just shut up for 3 seconds as I'm playing this game.
Nice, but you can do better than that.
And it's like that bro surfer voice.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you're playing the game, you're getting these constant black line flashes everywhere. The best way I can explain it for people who aren't watching the footage is like the planes at which the level is built on and they connect together. You can see the points at which they connect to each other and you can see through them.
So there is a word for this. I don't know it, but it's the PS1 wobble. It happens in a lot of games. I mean, remember Tomb Raider? I don't think we mentioned it in that episode, but it does happen a lot in that game too with like the environments and the walls and stuff.
Oh, but you get like with the cracking like we see in this?
I don't know if it was that bad, but like this happens in a lot of games. It was just a thing with the PS1. I actually watched a video recently where the guy described why it happens, and I didn't retain any of the information.
Oh. And maybe it's just because you're on snow that you see it more.
Maybe. Yeah. It's not hidden at all. Like they didn't even try.
No.
But even regardless of that, the graphics are just bad. I mean, the giant JPEG in the background, all the trees looking terrible. Like, this is just the most bare bones that a snowboarding game can be in every sense of the word. You know what I mean?
It really is. The objective of every single level to talk about how bare bones it is you just go from start to finish, and you need to have the least amount of crashes, and you need to beat the speed time and beat a score time. That's your gameplay in this first one.
Yeah, and there's no like career mode or like any sort of progression at all. It's like just fucking play the level. Here's the times.
Yep.
That's it. Now, I played this game for under an hour, and I feel like after 20 minutes, I saw everything this game had to offer, and I was going to stop because I wasn't having a fun time. Like, to me, this game was almost a Invasion from Beyond scenario where like I was just really not having fun, and I was forcing myself to play it.
Yep. I would agree with you on this one. I played for 40 minutes. In that 40 minutes, I played every single level 3 times. I think I played one of them 4 times. And that's just how telling the gameplay is of there's not much here that you can get through all of that in under an hour.
They should have at least had something to unlock, like new boards or new outfits or anything. Because, like, yes, you can choose your board and you can choose your outfit, but they're very, very limited to the point where it's like, it doesn't even matter. Like, yeah, the board affects your stats, but at the end of the day, like, it doesn't fucking really matter that much.
Mm-mm. But there is one unlockable character. Did we mention that?
No, I actually did not know that.
Oh, yeah. So this one I found out, I didn't realize it either, but there's some research. You can unlock a snowman. I forget, you have to complete one of the things to unlock the snowman. And the whole gimmick with the snowman is it rides on a frying pan, and you have an insane amount of speed, but you just can't turn that well.
So the way this game works, that doesn't even sound fun.
Nope, not at all.
So just to get into why this is not fun to play. So, one, the physics are bad, like you said, and I feel like I can't control my guy at all. They have like the quick turn thing you can do where you slide, but it's just not reliable. And you just most of the time will find yourself doing a complete turn.
Yep.
And if you hit the walls, you bounce around like pinball.
That's so great you brought that up because I have that in my notes as well. And so the way this works is like if you do a quick turn, you obviously slow down a bit, and obviously you can do a sharper turn. But if you go past a certain angle, your character gets confused on which way it's facing. So he starts like, am I facing forward or am I facing backwards? And his head's like turning which way, and it messes with the way your character is moving back and forth. There's times when you can hit things and you will start going up the mountain backwards for no reason. It's like, how are we defying gravity right now because I hit an object?
Well, also, if you're turned the wrong way, like backwards, and you're going down the hill, you go way slower.
Yes. If you're in the opposite stance.
Yeah. So there's just all these things that would be fine if the physics were good and if like the whole bouncing off the walls thing didn't happen.
It's a weird thing too, because you just touch a wall and you start tumbling in the opposite direction. You saying pinball is the best example of it, especially on the 3rd level, the expert one. I feel like you have control for a little bit, but then towards the bottom of the mountain, you're just bouncing off the walls back and forth until you get to the bottom.
Yeah, or one of those parts where you're trying to like dodge trees or rocks and you're just like slamming back and forth, literally like pinball. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah. And the level design is bad to the point where you never know when the cliff is coming up until it's the last possible second. So you're just going and then, oh, I'm off a cliff and I need to restart now.
It's just so frustrating to play this game. I really tried my best because I have very fond memories of the later ones, but I just couldn't bring myself to enjoy this like at all.
Typically, I would try to find some positives in this and disagree with you, but I unfortunately have to agree with you on every point you're making. Aside from everything else being broken, you can do tricks in this game. And I feel like, and I want to get your take on this, that the trick system is flawed so severely.
I hate it so much. It's just not fun to do tricks, and like tricks should be making you look sick and cool and having a fun time, and like it's just not at all because of the way that it works.
Yeah, so for those who have never played this, you pretty much hold the jump button and then you can hold left, right, up or down, or a combination of those for a predetermined amount of time. And when you let go of the button combinations, you're pretty much charging up an invisible bar for your trick of how fast you're going to spin. You never know how fast you're going to spin. So you never know how to time anything you're going to do. And so it's like, oh, am I holding this for too long? Am I holding it not long enough? And you don't know until you release the buttons. And then you inevitably wreck because you spun too fast or too slow.
Pretty much what I did was I just ignored that mechanic entirely and just did like grabs.
Yeah.
Because like So to do a grab, you hold like R1, R2. I forget if L1 and L2 do them in this game. I know they do in 2, but a combination of that and then up or down, and that's how you do like a grab. So what the game really wants you to do is charge up the thing like you're talking about, start a spin or a flip or whatever, and then do grabs while you're doing that. But it's just so hard to judge anything and to land. So most of the time, I just ignored the tricks altogether, honestly.
It's really just a hope and pray. You're hoping that by the time you release this button that you're going to land it at the end. And you have no control over the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand like why you would do this. Like why would you want to do it like this? It's just not fun.
Yeah. And you can only get points when there's 2 flags on the jump. Did you notice that?
I was going to bring that up because you can't just do tricks whenever you want. It has to be at the specific spots where they're like, there's a jump coming up or something like that.
Yep. As long as there's 2 flags, you can score points off of it, which is a baffling choice because the whole point of snowboarding is like, oh, you can jump off this little hill and do a grab or something. Like all of that should count towards your points.
I don't really understand the thought there. Maybe just so you can't constantly spam tricks.
Yeah, maybe it'd make the score challenge too easy, but then you just raise the score challenge value that you have to get.
I don't know. This game it almost just feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be in a way. Cause like it has these elements of like almost being a simulation game to a degree.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
It like takes itself very seriously as far as like the movement and the way the tracks are made. Like the tracks are made in what I would assume is a very realistic way with all the random turns and cliffs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to play it like a real mountain, I guess. You know what I mean? Where like you have to actually care about your speed. You have to care about turning. But then they have all this trick stuff and it's like, it's so half-baked. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It goes back and forth because the whole vibe of this, you're thinking, oh, this is going to be like Tony Hawk or like there's a skateboarding game that's like this too, like the downhill one. So like you think that it's going to be more fun like that, but I don't know. It's just so stiff and not fun to actually play like Tony Hawk. So I just don't know why they did this.
It's kind of like Tony Hawk, but with a lot of restrictions on what you can do. Like if Tony Hawk took away all of your control, that's this game.
If Tony Hawk took away all the fun, you got Cold Waters.
Yeah. I was kind of reading, and I don't know how true this is, but this was one of the first like extreme sports type games. I don't know how true that is, but it feels like if that is the case, then I can kind of get it where this hasn't been done before.
I mean, maybe on the PS1, it might have been one of the first ones.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah. So it's just a new medium.
But there's like snowboarding games on the N64. I mean, I don't know when these games came out, but there's 1080 snowboarding. There's Snowboard Kids.
Oh, okay.
Like those are all way better than this.
Interesting. I can't even imagine what those look like.
They just control better. I think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, you know me, I could overlook bad graphics. I could overlook a lot of this if this was fun to play, but it's just not.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said earlier, trying to find the positives in a bad game, but I just can't find it here at all. The only other thing, like we've complained a lot about this, but the only other thing is that the saving and loading is only found in the options and nowhere else.
I didn't even need to save anyway because I didn't fucking do anything.
I know.
So.
But it's just a weird thing of, oh, you have to backtrack all the way to the options and then come back to the gameplay.
It should give you the option right after you do a course to just save really quick.
Yep.
One other baffling complaint that I have is that there's no multiplayer in this.
Yeah. And we've seen it in the past too with like, you have these games with like a leaderboard. Destruction Derby had this and whatnot. This doesn't even have a leaderboard that I can remember, right? Or does it?
It does after each level, yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a weird choice, but I don't know if I can fault them. I don't know how common this whole like multiplayer thing was in the early PlayStation. Or maybe they just didn't think of it for this style of game.
Yeah, my thought was there's not even other snowboarders on the track with you. So that's probably why there's no multiplayer, is that it probably would have destroyed the game if there was more people on it.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other AI, so why would there be another character? No matter what you do, it probably would something would go wrong. I mean, this game already barely fucking works as it is.
I couldn't even imagine how chaotic these levels would be having an AI system on it as well.
Well, we'll get into that in a little bit here. But yeah, I mean, with all that, I don't really have much more to say about this game. There's just nothing to it, and we've complained about pretty much every aspect of it. So, unless you have any more notes, we can kind of end this one and get into the second one.
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised we even made it this far into the podcast with just this episode or just this first game because we literally complained about everything. We're not missing anything to tell you guys.
Yeah, so with that, the reviews for this game were pretty positive overall. I mean, they weren't amazing, but they were like in the 6s and 7s, which is, spoiler alert, much higher than what I'm going to give it. But we'll start with Computer and Video Games Magazine gave it a 3 out of 5. And here's what they said. This is a good example of gameplay being better than graphics. While it doesn't look appalling, the pop-up and overall quality of the scenery isn't up to the usually high PlayStation standards. But, and this is the important part, it's loads of fun to play. All lies.
But I guess if we take it back to when this review was actually done, maybe I can see why they had fun.
I should have done more research to see what else came out around this time, but 1997 is a couple of years into the PlayStation. Obviously, Tony Hawk wouldn't come out for a while, but there's got to be other games,
yeah.
PS1 or N64, that do similar things to this, but better.
It's confusing. Everything they said is, where were you having the fun at? I don't understand.
No. Even higher, GameSpot gave it a 7.4 out of 10, and they said, the only problem with Cool Borders is with its terrain recognition. Hit a wall and the player ricochets like a pinball. Get stuck between two trees and endure a frustrating struggle to get out. The programmers would have also done well to heed an important aspect of real snowboarding. The terrain does not completely control you.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is a more realistic review than the last one.
Yeah, but the score is still really high, so I don't fucking know.
Yeah, we've complained about that from the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I know. They're like, this game fucking sucks, 8.
Yeah, how would you feel if the terrain controlled you more?
You mean if the terrain didn't control you?
No, that's not that. Wait, that's not what they're saying though.
I think what they're getting at is the fact that in real snowboarding, the terrain, you are more in control of things as opposed to this.
Oh, I see what they're trying to say. Yeah.
Well, because it's snow. You know what I mean? I did play a snowboarding game more recently called Steep. You ever heard of this?
Yes, and actually when you showed me it back when it came out, my first thought was, oh, this is Cool Borders that they did again.
Yeah, it's got a very dynamic snow system, which is very fun and cool. I like that game a lot. I mean, I never really went back to it, but that's what a modern Cool Border should be. Imagine.
Yeah.
All the money was right there. They could have just did it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so for my score, I've had nothing positive to say about this game. It's just not fun to play. It sucks in almost every way. So, without further ado, I'm going to go with a 3.5.
Wow. All right.
Just did not like it. Had a really hard time playing it. Just didn't like it.
No surprise here. I agree with everything you said. I could not find one positive about this game. And my range was from 3.5 to 4. And because I was hoping I was going to be somewhat wrong and that maybe you would find a positive that I didn't see. But because of that, I'm going to agree with you that this is a 3.5.
Damn. All the way at the bottom. I mean, it's not as low as Expendable, just by a little bit.
I feel like Expendable almost was more playable than this.
I agree with you. I'm surprised that we haven't really gotten to a lot of the really bad games, which I'm sure will come with time. But I assure you, we're going to be filling out the bottom of this one for sure.
Oh, yeah.
There's going to be much worse games than what we've played.
We have such a huge cushion to fill from the bottom and to the top. So I can't wait to see all of those.
Cool Borders 2 came out less than a year later.
Which is absolutely insane to me. How do you get a game out that fast?
The Japanese releases are about a year apart, I believe. So it makes more sense. I think just when they were getting brought over here, it was just a little quicker. But regardless, less than a year apart, this came out in November. The first one came out in January. That's crazy.
Absolutely ridiculous. And even more ridiculous because immediately out of the gate, higher production value in the second one.
It's night and day compared to the first one.
It almost feels like the first one was a concept game and they were kind of working on the second one at the same time.
Maybe the first one, just the proof of concept, the pitch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Here's this game. Do you guys like it? And then, oh yeah, okay, well, immediately here's the second one because we were kind of already done with it.
Yeah, and I mean, just even the intro. The intro has total Tony Hawk vibes, for sure.
100%. And just that whole, that girl whispering in the beginning and then it goes into that music. I'm like, oh, this is getting you amped up in this so much better. It's so much better than a guy slowly spinning off of a cliff on the first one.
The only thing that I thought was weird was how it mixes in gameplay with the real life stuff because it doesn't make sense.
I thought about this. I'm wondering if they're trying to trick you into making it look like, oh, which one's the game, which one's real life. You can't tell.
Maybe, but I sure as hell can tell.
Yeah. Aside from like the whole like boost in the cinematics in the beginning, your menus look so much better.
Exactly, and there's so many more options, so much more to do.
So much more to do. There's a career mode now, which I would assume you did, right?
I wouldn't call it career mode. It's more like a competition, but yes.
True. Yeah.
I don't know. When you say career mode, what I think of is like you're upgrading as you go, kind of like Tony Hawk.
True.
And this game doesn't have that really.
Oh, yeah. Still no upgrades or anything in this game.
Crazy.
They fixed the graphics, physics better in this game to a point.
I think every single thing about this game is better.
Yeah. The only thing, my problem with the physics in this one is it still has that holding square to do a sharp turn thing.
Yes, but I also found it to be a little easier to not flip around in this one.
Yes. On top of, and I found this out later, that you can just hit L1 or R1 to switch your board around.
Never found that one out.
We'll get into why I figured that out later, but whoa, we didn't even talk about this. Sorry, on the first one, the music. What did you think about at least the first game and then back to this game?
So the music in the first game was like fine. It really didn't bother me too much. It wasn't great, but it was just kind of whatever. The music in the second game fucking sucks so bad. It like made me mad.
I was not expecting that response. Why do you not like the music?
The instruments that they chose just sound like shit.
Oh, okay.
I hated it.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like it works a lot better in the second game, and it's not to the level of Tony Hawk, obviously, but
well, yeah,
it gets you amped up and like it goes with what you're doing. I had no complaints about the music.
Music in the menus, fine, but music in the game is the one I'm talking about. I hated it so much. It was literally like if I was like, "Hey AI, generate me some generic '90s rock."
Yeah, rock with like some punk influences here and there.
Yeah. Having to listen to it, I was just like, no. And there's some songs that are really bad.
I will give you that. There are some really, really bad ones, but for me at least, I thought there were some really good ones as well. Did you go into the options at all and adjust the volumes to turn down the music?
No, I probably should have.
One thing too, you can also turn down the announcer guy.
Oh, I should have turned him off.
Yep. You can do that in the first one too. I forgot about that. There's a positive.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely not as annoying in this one anyway, so it really didn't bother me as much. I mean, he's still annoying for sure, but it's not like the first one.
Exactly. And yeah, so like we said, there's a lot of game modes in this one. What did you want to start with?
So I tried them all just for a minute, just to kind of see what was going on. And what I played first was the board park mode, which is just like practice mode, basically.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah.
You get to see different parts, and then there's that cool meter down in the bottom right that slowly fills up as you do tricks.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't really seem like there was much going on there. It was just kind of like, hey, if you want to mess around in the courses that you have, like, you know, have fun.
Yeah, pretty much. And like you said, practice. I guess we can just say right off the bat, the trick system was never updated in this game, even though everything else was.
There's more tricks you can do, but at the end of the day, it's still not fun to do tricks.
Nope.
I mean, you can grind in this game. That's cool, I guess. But like, it only works sometimes. I felt like there was a level I unlocked later called like Pipe something. I don't know if you played this one, where there's like pipes everywhere.
Pipe Canyon or something.
Yeah. And you think you're going to be able to grind on these things, but you can't. You have to like balance on them.
Oh, okay. I was always wondering about that. I think even as a kid, I always wondered about that, but I never actually did it.
Yeah, I was wondering why. It's like perfectly made for grinding. Like why? But I don't know.
And I didn't do the grinding too much. Is it like Tony Hawk where you have to balance, or is it just an auto balance?
No, it's an auto balance. I only did it like
okay.
on one level because once I tried it again and it didn't work, I'm like, I don't really care and I don't want to like mess up by trying to grind.
That makes sense.
But yeah, then I tried the half pipe mode, which was just like whatever. It's really not fun. It's not like Tony Hawk.
Yeah, when your problem is the trick system is bad, to have a game mode relying completely on the trick system is just a nightmare.
I just never felt like I could reliably do anything.
Exactly.
But even then, like in this game, I don't know if you felt this way. I felt like I had a harder time doing tricks in this game than the first one.
Oh, how so?
like it wouldn't register sometimes.
Oh,
Pretty much as soon as you jump, I would try and do it really fast so I could hold it out and do like a spin or something. And sometimes I would just jump and just be there and not do anything. I don't know. In the first game, I at least felt like I knew what I was doing. In this game, I just always never felt sure if it was going to work or not.
yeah, I had that same complaint. There was the freestyle mode. Did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much just the first game.
Yeah. Wait, which one was I thinking of?
You thinking of like the big jump one?
No. What's the one where you're going down the ramp and the guy pretty much calls out a trick and you got to do it?
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but it's like just a big jump, big air. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry. So it is big air, but it's master, not contest.
Oh, what's the difference?
So for contest, it's what you said. It's just one, you get to pick the level and it's either a kicker ramp or a half pipe at the bottom. You have to do the biggest score, and it's pretty much with your friends of, oh, I scored 1,000 points. Can you beat me? Type thing. The master is you're going down this course and it's just a straightaway. There's nothing else. And a thing will pop up on the bottom of the screen and say, do a 180. So when you get to the ramp, you got to do a 180, and either if you land it, you get a point. If you don't land it, it's like a negative point, more or less. And that's the game mode that I learned that you can switch your board, because the one thing is like, oh, do a fakie by pushing L1. And I pushed L1 and he spun his board. I'm like, oh, that would have helped me a lot whenever I was doing the tournament thing.
Yeah, anytime I got spun around, I would just jump and spin.
That's me. I always tried that too. Yeah. But then it gets more complicated because the longer you're doing the master thing, they stop giving you the button combinations. So at one point, it's like, oh, do a backflip mute air. And you just have to remember what the mute air buttons are. If you don't, that's a negative point, and then they will tell you what the buttons are after that. So it's like a constant negative point to see what you have to do.
Yeah, for some reason I didn't play that, but that does not sound fun at all, especially with how broken the tricks are.
And it's in that game mode where it would say, oh, do this and this. And I did it. And it's like, oh, sorry, that wasn't it. Or my guy just wouldn't do anything and I'd fall.
I pretty much tried every mode, and then I played the competition mode as long as I could until I lost.
Oh, okay. How far did you make it before you lost in the competition?
I made it pretty far, honestly. I want to say like 6 or 7 rounds.
Oh, okay. I can't remember how many there are.
I have no idea, but like eventually, like pretty much I would get last place on every big air mode, and then I would have to do really well in the race to make up for it. So eventually, like there was a few times where once you get into the harder courses, because this is how you unlock all the courses too, and just the harder ones where it was the same shit as the first game, where there's just a random turn or a random cliff or something, and it would just destroy me. And another thing that annoys me about the races in the competition mode is everybody else starts before you. You don't all start at the same time. So you start in 8th place and you have to work your way back to the front. And I got first place one time, but it is so hard because you cannot make a single fucking mistake.
Nope. I will say I kind of like the setup, how you have to do a big air to place yourself into the next race. It's interesting. I like the concept. But like you're saying, the handicap you give yourself for not doing it good is enormous. So for everyone who's never played this, is you do this big air mode to score points, and wherever you land ranks you for the race. And it's not as simple as, oh, I got like 6th place, so there's just going to be maybe like I'm a second or two behind. No. If you get 6th place, you're like 13 seconds from the start that you actually get going. If you get last place, that's like 25 to 30 seconds that you're waiting. The race is pretty much almost over at that point by the time you even get to start.
And that's how I started every single race the whole time.
I don't understand why they made it so difficult. So for the first few, I got like maybe 1st or 2nd. I just did a really big spin trick and I just hoped for the best. Most of the time I landed it. But I found that even if I got 4th place, which was I think maybe a 6-second delay, even at 4th place, I couldn't catch up to 1st. The best I can do is 2nd from there.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much 20 seconds behind for last place. So, I don't know, the game is basically just like punishing you for sucking at the game, which is kind of annoying.
It makes it easy when you're in 1st and you get to just start when everyone else gets a time delay. But again, just like we said with the first game, it's a very odd choice in design.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is like better than the first game in every way. But at the same time, like I still didn't have fun. Don't get me wrong, I had more fun, but like, more fun than a 3.5. I don't know what that means.
And I almost wanted to praise the game for their level design in the second one. It really feels like the second game, they really laid out the levels and it's a lot easier to see where things are until you get later into the competition. And then it just reverts back to the first game where the level design is so terrible.
I will say, I still think the worst level in this game is still better than any of the levels in the first game, but it's still annoying.
Like for me, did you make it a freezing point?
I don't know if I did. I don't remember a lot of the names.
Okay. Freezing point's where it all fell apart for me, where I was just hitting everything. There was cliffs that I was just missing because I didn't know they were coming up. And there's one part on freezing point that there's a single bridge connecting two cliffs and you have to be perfectly on the bridge to get across. And I didn't realize that it was a bridge that I was looking at until I was now past the bridge going off of the cliff beside it.
Yeah, I didn't make it that far.
Okay. It feels like a lot of gotcha moments that like, oh, you got to play this game a lot to learn each level.
Yeah, I don't know the logic in designing a game like that. I don't know. It's the same problem as the first game for me, where it's this weird mix of arcade and simulation where, they want you to play perfectly, but then they're like, haha, you fell off the cliff.
Yeah. And like I talked about the first game where it'd be nice to have a map. This one has a position map, more or less.
Useless.
Yeah, you don't know what's happening. It's still in front of you.
I don't know. I had glimpses in this game where I was having fun and then it would just get ruined by something. There's plenty of times like where I'd be just going on a straightaway, going real fast, like going back and forth, just like, wow, this is kind of sick. And then, oh, here's a sharp turn. Hope you're ready.
Just slam into the wall.
Yeah. It doesn't know what it wants to do.
The most frustrating thing too, it's worse in the first one. It's not as bad in this one, is the detection of you falling off of the cliff. Like if you wanted to do a level skip more or less and jump over like a crack over the cliff to get to the other side, the game's like, oh no, you fell off the cliff because you went over nothing.
Yeah. I would just fail so many times. Whether it's that, whether it's like smacking something, whether it's hitting a tree, hitting a log. There was one time where I hit a log and I kept getting spun around. I'm just like, dude, I don't know. Overall, my fun would be ruined every level at some point.
Yeah, I agree. I had fun in the beginning and towards the end, I was just angry. But some other positives, they do have 3 unlockable characters in this one.
Nice.
And as a kid, I do remember getting all 3 of them. So I apparently played this game a lot to get them.
You were a pro.
I guess so. One is the boss. And that's if you beat the competition mode and mirror mode. So all the tracks are backwards.
Nice. Something.
You get the snowman again. They brought back the snowman. And you have to beat the hard mode competition. I don't even know what that is or how you get it. But that's how you get the snowman.
All right.
And then you get an alien if you get higher than 37.5 on the half pipe level, which seems impossible.
At that point, you've got to be so good at this game, it's insane.
Yeah. But the good thing about the alien is you ride on a flying saucer. So when you go off of a ramp, you can do an infinite spin and it doesn't matter how you land, you always land the trick.
That's a fun twist, at least.
Yeah. So it's like, I remember taking the alien to the big air mode. And I think it's called like Titan's Toe or something, where you go down and there's a half pipe at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I would just hit that and just go spinning into the air and get like this enormous point bonus for how big of a spin I did.
Yeah, but I feel like at that point, like you're just doing like a victory lap. Like if you unlock that, like you've exhausted every bit of this game, Exactly. There's not much more. Like it's only a novelty. You're not going to use the alien in competition mode. The snowman, again, with insane speed, you're not going to use in competition mode because you can't turn for anything. And the big thing too is they fixed the physics of the turning and stuff, but I feel like a lot of it was I'm fighting not turning, doing the hard turn as much versus hitting the wall. Yeah.
It's like you're like, oh, I'm trying to turn, but now my character is getting backwards because I turned too much. They fixed it so it's not as finicky, but it's still there if you go hard enough.
No, I agree with you. One other note that I have is what's up with all the Butterfinger stuff?
Oh, yeah, I wanted to bring this up. Like, I guess they got a sponsor or like someone to give them money for this game, but there's Butterfinger BB ads everywhere in this game, which was one of my favorite snacks.
Just constantly. I'm not gonna lie, it made me want to buy a Butterfinger.
It's just, Oh yeah, and yeah. So I just saw the Butterfinger one too. I didn't notice that, but the Butterfinger BBs, it made me laugh because they're not even around anymore.
I know.
It's like, oh, here's this product that I forgot about and I loved so much, and now you're reminding me of this thing I used to love.
I very specifically have a memory of ads with Homer Simpson for those. Is that right?
Oh, you may be correct. I do remember that. Yeah.
A little bit of a tangent, but what I really like, you ever have the Butterfinger crisp ones that have like the wafer in it?
No, I didn't know that was a thing.
I don't think they make them anymore. It's like pretty much like a mix between a Kit Kat and a Butterfinger. It's so good.
That sounds amazing. Butterfinger's easily like one of my top tier candies.
I like them a lot, but like getting all that shit in your teeth is kind of annoying because it's like all sticky.
You have to pick all of it out.
But the Butterfinger crisp didn't have that because it was more of a wafer. So like it was the perfect way to have a Butterfinger. But I guess now we're advertising Butterfinger as well. So
please give us some money, Butterfinger.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like there's not really much more to talk about. We kind of talked about all of this stuff in the first game. And like, yeah, we talked about the new stuff, but for the most part, not that much is different. All the complaints I had still are there. It's just, a little less egregious.
Yeah. And I don't have any more notes either. I think we covered everything.
All right. Well, then we can hop into some reviews. This got even higher reviews than the first one, which obviously makes sense. It is a better game.
Yeah.
So Game Informer gave it a 9 out of 10, which is absolute insanity.
It is very insane.
And they said, Cool Borders 2 has grown by leaps and bounds over last year's game. First of all, came out in the same year. First of all, the new grabs are amazing. Then there's the half pipe. Wow. It's just hours and hours of amazing tricks. You'd pretty much have to be an idiot not to love this game. I guess that makes me an idiot.
It must. I wonder how difficult it would be to just throw in a meter bar. So when you hold the spin, the meter fills up and you know exactly, oh, when you hit this tick, that's a 180. When you hit this tick, that's a 360.
It seems so simple, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's something you could talk towards. Is the later games better with that?
I honestly don't remember because playing these two, it's like fucking with my memory. And now I'm like, I don't remember like how much better it is or like how different it is. Like, I'm like, are they all like this? And I just didn't remember.
Yeah.
The only thing I truly do remember is the later ones are less Japanese vibes, and it's 'cause it's made by like a Western developer. So it's more of like a straight up Tony Hawk vibe as opposed to this still being very like Japanese influenced.
Yeah, I get that. Now I'm very curious on what the later games look like. And I wonder if the trick system is ever fixed. Is it something like a Tony Hawk where you can just be more creative with how you play? Or is it still based around this charge up system?
It's definitely not Tony Hawk, I can tell you that.
No.
All right, well, IGN gave it a 7.2 out of 10. And they said, sure, it's got 7 borders now with 18 boards to choose from, but they all feel pretty much the same. And the track design, which was occasionally interesting in the first, is nothing short of boring here. Insane take.
How are you saying that the first one had interesting levels and this one's more boring? That blows my mind.
Did they play the same games? Like, I don't understand.
I really don't get it.
Unless the 2 unlockable tracks in the first one are just like the fucking pinnacle of game design, then they're full of shit.
I really don't think so. I think I looked up the video and they look exactly like the other levels that we played.
Oh, I'm sure.
Unless this person played the first few levels of the competition mode and it's like, oh, what is this? Did they make it for babies now because it's so simple and it's not very difficult?
I bet you that's what happened, honestly. So that brings us to our scores. I had a tough time with this one. I wasn't sure how much to move it up from Cool Borders 1, but I think it's significantly better for sure. So I'm going to go up by a full point to a 4.5.
Interesting. Nice. I am pretty close to you on that. I pretty much wrote down this game made huge improvements from their first game, but I think there's still so much more that they could have done to fix it. The fact that they did so much between the first 2 games, either A, the first game was a concept game, or B, they really just wanted to put more effort into the second one in such a short amount of time. But I was going with a 5 for the second game.
I was between a 4.5 and a 5. I was kind of going back and forth on it, but since we stayed negative, of course, I figured 4.5. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to play either of these games again, so I don't really care.
Exactly.
Before you put this into here, actually, I have my change for this week.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's do that first.
Which was I want to move Alone in the Dark up to a 5.
Oh, okay. So what made you want to change that?
We talked about this on the episode after Alone in the Dark, but I just feel like I didn't give it a fair shake because I use save states and, a lot of the things I was complaining about are reasons why people like survival horror games. So I'm just like, yeah, it's really hard, but these things are very intentional. These are things that they did on purpose. It's not going to make it bad. I'm not going to make it a high score because I still didn't have a good time regardless of those revelations, but I think a 5 is fine.
And I completely agree with that. Like we always said, 5 is a very middle of the road. I get that. I wondered if we'd played this after we played Dino Crisis. Would we have different thoughts on this?
Yeah.
It's too far in the past now to revisit it to now see, but I agree. I think 5 is good. But that now ties that with Magic Carpet.
Leave it below Magic Carpet.
Really? You think this is worse than Magic Carpet?
I at least played more of Magic Carpet. At least that game's taken some shots at a new idea. Alone in the Dark is just a Resident Evil clone.
I get that. I was going to argue this to death to say that it should be better. But now thinking about it, I think from your experience, if I were to play the guy character, I would have been just as miserable as you were. So I can completely get that. All right. So now we have to play Snowboarders 2. And that's with Saga Frontier and Invasion from Beyond, which is tough for me. I don't even have an opinion on this, on where it goes.
Well, you know what? While we're here, this was going to be for next week. But my other change and my final change in this list is to bump Invasion from Beyond down to a 4.
Oh, no. You're hurting it even more.
I hated that game. You know that.
But I didn't think it was going to get worse. Okay.
So that brings us to another tie.
Yeah.
So first things first, I would put Saga Frontier above Cool Borders 2.
I just don't know if I agree with that.
Honestly, I don't even fucking care. They both suck.
Think about how painstaking Saga was. If we played without a walkthrough, we never would have made it anywhere in that game.
That's fair. And that was a game that I played 18 hours or something, and I forced myself, and that was such a long amount of time. I'll give you that. All right. Put it above it.
Cool. So Cool Borders 2 will be above Saga Frontier at number 26. Still very low on our list. And then what was the other one? Oh, so Invasion from Beyond, Tomb Raider, and Soul of the Samurai.
My take, which is one you're not going to like.
Oh, no.
Is that Invasion from Beyond should be at the bottom.
I knew it was coming.
I would be willing to meet you in the middle and put it between the two.
See, I honestly really like Invasion from Beyond, so it's hard for me to say that it's worse than Tomb Raider.
Yeah, I really like Invasion from Beyond. I gave it a 5 out of 10.
Okay, yeah, but compared to everything else,
Yeah, I know.
The only reason we're talking about this being so low is because of your score.
Yeah.
Which I get it. I get your frustration with it. I think for what it is, it was a nice game.
Honestly, we can leave it how it is right now, where they're all in the order that they are: Invasion from Beyond, Tomb Raider, Soul of the Samurai. I don't really feel strongly enough to argue with you about it. I just really had a bad time with that game, a horrible time. So, but you liked it a little more than those two. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to argue with you about it.
It just makes sense to what you were saying. As always, your numbers represent your thoughts on this. So that's why you want to put it at the bottom.
Yeah.
So I guess for now, yeah, we'll keep it there. I'm sure we'll reorder stuff down the road.
For sure. Well, all right. That is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe, as well as give us a rating on podcast services. We'll see you next week.